Hi everybody, welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. My name is Jared. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe. We're looking at the April 1992 General Conference. This is a talk by Elder Neil A. Maxwell of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles. The name of the talk is My Servant Joseph. And it's been a little while since we've read this, but I think now would be a good time to review it. Now, my brethren, these are your days in the history of the church. Mark well what kind of days they will be, days when, with special visibility, the Lord will make bare his holy arm in the eyes of all the nations. God will also hasten his work. He will also shorten the last days for mine elect's sake. Hence, there will be a compression of events. And that's the key right there, a compression of events. I really feel like there's been a compression of events, probably starting with 2020, or you could maybe go back to when President Nelson became president of the church. But definitely by the time we reached 2020 and afterwards, I feel like there's been a compression of events. And in this video, we're going to talk about what just happened yesterday. I apologize that I didn't get this video out sooner. I usually try and get them scheduled for 7 a.m. But this weekend was really crazy, so I wasn't able to get a video scheduled for this morning. But I'm sure at this point, everybody's heard there has been a second assassination attempt on Trump. The first one was back in July 13th. And for me, that was a really surreal day. Again, I feel like it just called my mind to the fact that we really are in the last days. There's a compression of events and things are just spiraling out of control. And on a personal note, on that day, in case you didn't see that video, my family and I had gone to a water park near Wichita. And once we were done, went to the lockers and just my phone was blowing up with texts and messages and stuff. People telling me about what had happened on that day. And as we were driving home, we were talking about it, thinking about it. We went a different way. We went like the more scenic route, even though I wanted to get home quickly so I could do a video about this and do a live stream. But we went the scenic route, and as we did, we passed this area where my car broke down earlier this year. The only place on this highway where there's a light is just out in the country. And you have this like white tank that somebody had painted Trump. Originally it was Trump 2020, but then they repainted it, and now it's Trump 2024. And so I already had that experience with the car breaking down at this place, the only place on that highway where there's a light. And then everything went well. We got a tow truck, had a friend come and pick us up, and everything went very smoothly. I did a live stream as we were waiting for the tow truck. And then a few months later, that was just like right after we came home from Kirtland, after April General Conference. We were there for the Eclipse. It was like a week later. And then fast forward to July 13th, as we were driving by here, there was this unusual amount of smoke in this area. It was from like a fire, farmers burning their fields, but we never seen this much smoke in this area. We drive by here all the time to go to church. And so it just added to that experience. And I'm not asking you to accept that as like a sign for you, but on a personal level, it felt like something really major had happened, and it was highlighted by this experience. So I took a picture, and now fast forward a couple months, 2 months to September, and we have this that happened. By the way, this spreadsheet, you can access this anytime. The link for my spreadsheets is in the description box of each video. We're looking at the tab called Timeline Second Coming, where I'm trying to capture just all the major events that I think are significant, whether it has to do with church history or things that could be signs for the second coming. And of course, I don't have everything on here, but I do have my sources over here in column R. So if you ever need to look something up or verify it, I have sources for everything. Okay, so let's take a look what's going on. This is Fox News exclusive. Former President Trump said President Biden and Vice President Harris' rhetoric, quote unquote, is what is causing him to be shot at, following the second assassination attempt against him since July, while telling Fox News Digital that the suspected gunman acted, quote unquote, on, quote unquote, highly inflammatory language of Democrats. The suspected gunman, Ryan Wesley Routh, had an AK-47 style rifle pointing through the chain link fence out toward the green, a GoPro camera, and 2 backpacks. He ran from the scene, but was pulled over and arrested on I-95. Authorities are treating the episode as an apparent assassination attempt against Trump, and it was here at his golf club, Trump International Golf Club. There's the entrance, and then here's the guy that tried to carry this out. I don't care to get into, different theories about what actually happened or who was behind what. That's beyond the scope of my channel. Sometimes I talk a little bit about that stuff, but not typically. So this isn't really the channel for that. But let's just say I'm very open-minded to different possibilities. Okay, so we had this happen on CNBC. It says, suspect in apparent Trump assassination attempt to make first court appearance. Key points. The suspect in the apparent assassination attempt against former President Donald Trump is making his first court appearance. Ryan Wesley Routh appeared in shackles, bearing a nonchalant demeanor in U.S. District Court in West Palm Beach. Okay, so he's already been to this court. Routh was arrested after U.S. Secret Service agents opened fire at Trump's golf course in West Palm Beach while the Republican nominee was playing around. Here's another picture of him. He's, definitely an eccentric looking person. So who knows? Maybe there's mental illness going on or something like that. Okay, so we've already reviewed this. This is Wikipedia's article called List of United States Presidential Assassination Attempts and Plots. Okay, so we've had in the United States 4 presidents that have been assassinated: Abraham Lincoln, James A. Garfield, William McKinley, and then, of course, the most recent one, John F. Kennedy. And then we have one president that was injured in a assassination attempt. It was Ronald Reagan, March 30th, 1981. And then we have 2 where presidents have been wounded, but they were not in office when this took place. So the first is Theodore Roosevelt, and then we have Donald Trump with the July 13th attempt. After that, it lists attacks, assassination attempts, and plots. So this is not necessarily things that were carried out. It could have just been a plot, or it could have been an attempt, or like it says, other attacks. So for this article, they're putting what just happened yesterday under this category. And they have a few other, I guess, plots or attempts that took place. These 2 from 2017. So that would have been before he was sworn into office. And then the most recent one was yesterday, September 15th, 2024. So I feel like this is pretty unusual. Not so much that there's like all these different plots. I'm not really focusing on this part, but I'm focusing on Trump. Just, it seems like he's been kind of like a pivotal president figure, unprecedented. We've never had a president like this, or a candidate, and things are just like really divided right now in the country. It feels like the whole world is just kind of falling apart, and honestly, it does look to me like we're sliding toward World War III. I was thinking about doing a video about that. I still might, but I just keep seeing more and more indicators that we're headed down that path. And so, it's unusual because in my lifetime, maybe I'm too young, but I don't remember other presidential candidates having these like assassination attempts in my lifetime. So I was born in the 80s. I don't remember with like George Bush, Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, George Bush Sr. And then beyond that, I would have been too young. So for me, just from my point of view, this is like pretty unusual. I mean, and these 2 attempts are not too far apart, July and September. So for me, it just feels like a sign of the times, and it feels like things are just falling apart. And I'm not trying to be like a doom person. I'm not like that. I'm optimistic, but I feel like what Elder Maxwell said, I feel like this is a compression of events. Let me know what you think. So I went ahead and I put this on my spreadsheet. I'm taking note of it. This is the most recent thing. It's also worth noting that yesterday, the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania temple was dedicated. So before that, the most recent before that was the Layton, Utah temple in June. And then Salta, Argentina, and then Coban, Guatemala before that. Okay, so there's a number of you that have like sent me articles about an upcoming blood moon and also solar eclipse. So let's talk about that for just a minute. The first thing I want to point out, though, before we talk about these upcoming celestial events, I really still think that this event right here had great significance. This is space.com. This was published November 7th, 2022. The first ever election day blood moon lunar eclipse is coming on November 8th. So November 8th, 2022, that's the last time that we had national elections, not for the presidency, but for like Congress and stuff like that. There's people that sometimes don't understand that if they're not American citizens. So it was national elections, but for other offices. But it was the first time in our nation's history that there was a blood moon on election day. And I don't know. I feel like that's a pretty obvious sign to anybody. I feel like it should be. Like, that's not good, right? During such a divisive time as the one that we're in right now, having something called a blood moon on election day. And I'll remind you, this is just a month after the October 2022 General Conference, in which President Nelson called on us to be the people of the second coming in his talk called Overcome the World and Find Rest. It's the first time that I've ever found where a prophet has just point blank period called on the church to be the people of the second coming. And you know that he meant it because when you actually watch the video and you see how he pauses and smiles and looks at the congregation and his tone of voice and his body language, you know that he really means it. So he did that. And then the next month we had the first ever election day blood moon. So I feel like this is similar to, I should have pulled this up. I wasn't thinking about it till now though. Rare daytime meteor, Israel. So last year in Israel, in the north of the country, this is Times of Israel, unusually bright meteor seen over Israel, as some report hearing blast. So this was a rare daytime meteor in Israel in the north, which of course, the north of Israel is where Armageddon is supposed to take place. It's a northern battle. And this happened last year in April. So just 6 months before this war started, which the war is not over yet. And things are starting to pivot kind of like from Hamas to Hezbollah. In fact, there's been some notable attacks over the last few days, if you've been following it. But I feel like this was a sign for the war that we're currently in. I really think so. Just because of the timing of it, the location, it's rare. Same thing with this, the election day blood moon. Here we are 2 years later, and Trump's had a couple assassination attempts, and who knows what's going to happen during these upcoming elections, but it's probably not going to be pretty. Either way, doesn't matter who wins. It's probably not going to be pretty at all. It feels like, to me, in my opinion, it feels like things are coming to a head. Okay, so what's going on with this upcoming eclipse? Okay, so there's two things. There's two things that people have been pointing me to. So tomorrow and the next day, there's going to be a partial lunar eclipse on the 17th and 18th. I checked the Hebrew calendar. There isn't anything going on for those days. And then there's this annular solar eclipse. Don't confuse that with a total solar eclipse. This is like a lesser eclipse because the moon is further away from the Earth at that time, so you don't get the full total eclipse effect. But the moon does pass in front of the sun, and then you see the ring of the sun around it. So this is going to be October 2nd, and it looks like it's going to mostly be in the Pacific and then kind of cross Chile and Argentina in the south. And that is taking place on the 2nd, and that is Erev Rosh Hashanah. So that's Rosh Hashanah Eve. Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, which is 10 days later, these are the high holy days in Judaism, and the 10 days are called the 10 days of awe or the 10 days of repentance. It's a major time during the year for Jews. And on Wednesday the 2nd, after sundown, that's when Rosh Hashanah starts. So you could say that Rosh Hashanah starts on that day when we have this eclipse. I don't have any other interesting details to point out with either one of these things. I don't know that I put too much stock into it. Well, except for this, with the partial lunar eclipse, it is kind of interesting. Let's go to NPR. Okay, celestial trifecta. What to know about Tuesday's lunar eclipse. Stargazers will be in for another celestial treat Tuesday night as 3 cosmic events occur at the same time during the full moon. Okay, so we have 3 things in one. This is tomorrow and the next day. Well, more especially tomorrow. After last month brought space enthusiast a blue supermoon, September's harvest moon, so that's the first thing, will not only coincide with a supermoon, but also with a blood moon, a partial lunar eclipse. Okay, so harvest moon, supermoon, blood moon. Those are the 3 things taking place at the same time. While harvest moons happen each year close to the start of fall, and supermoons 3 to 4 times a year, all 3 events taking place at the same time are quote-unquote quite rare. Astrophysicist Teresa Monsu of NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center told NPR. Okay, so quite rare, quote-unquote. So I'm going to go ahead and take note. Now, really quick, you might be asking, what is a harvest moon? Okay, so you have these traditional names for full moons. Typically, you have 1 full moon a month. And here's the list of traditional names. January is the wolf moon. February, snow moon. March, worm moon. April, pink moon. May, flower moon. June, strawberry moon. July, buck moon. August, sturgeon moon. And then here we are, September or October, harvest moon. It says, technically, the harvest moon is the full moon closest to the September equinox, around September 22nd. The harvest moon is the only full moon named, determined by the equinox rather than a month. Most years, it's September, but around every 3 years, it falls in October. Okay, so that's a special one. So that's kind of interesting. I will point out it's happening on the 17th, and President Nelson is the 17th president of the church. In fact, I have this spreadsheet right here that lists all these special moons that have occurred during his presidency. And a lot of these I really do feel point to him. So let's just go over this really quick. He became president of the church the 14th of January, 2018. Okay, 17 days later, again, he's the 17th president of the church, there was a super blue blood moon. That's where the moon is closest in its orbit to Earth. And then it's the second full moon in a month. That's a blue moon, typically. There's a couple different types of blue moons, but that's one of them. And then it was a blood moon. It was a it was a full lunar eclipse. So, super blue blood moon, 17 days after he became president of the church. The last time that happened was 1866. Okay, so that's how his presidency started off. February of that year, there was no full moon in that month because February is a shorter month. And so that led to a second blue moon in March. So blue moon in January, skip February, and then a blue moon in March. And that blue moon was the Paschal moon, the first Saturday of President Nelson's first General Conference as president of the church. So General Conference, Paschal moon, so it's like an Easter moon, and it follows this other blue moon 17 days after he became president of the church. Okay, and then you fast forward to Halloween 2020. That was the next blue moon. It was visible across all time zones, which hasn't occurred since 1944. And the next Halloween full moon will be in 2039. Okay, after that, August 31st, there was a super blue moon. And again, by the way, this is rare. Having a super blue moon, having a super blue blood moon, that's even more rare. These are not common things to happen. They're all like, there's a higher frequency of these events during President Nelson's presidency. That's why I feel like these point to him. Especially this one, super blue moon. It happened 9 days before President Nelson turned 99 on 9/9, meaning September 9th. Okay, and then this year, 2024, the 19th of August, we had another super blue moon. Again, super blue moons are not common. Blue moons, yes. Super by themselves, yes. Blue moons by themselves, super moons and blue moons by themselves, yes. Together, no, that's not common. Even though it may seem like it just reviewing this list. It just so happens that they're all clustered during his presidency. That was 21 days before President Nelson turned 100. 21 is 3 sevens. And here we have the most recent one. And I'll go ahead and put it on here. It's happening on the 17th in the month that he turned 100. So harvest moon, super moon, blood moon. Quite rare according to NASA. So I don't know. I know some of you are like, oh, that's just silly. That's fine. Just be nice about it. If you don't agree, you can be nice. But there's those of us that do feel like there's significance in these things, that the Lord does work in patterns. And if you have eyes to see and ears to hear, then you can see these little messages that come through. I don't know exactly what it means other than I feel like these things point to President Nelson and Trump with his second assassination attempt. I feel like this goes along with what Neil A. Maxwell said about a compression of events. Let's read the rest of this. Okay, so he will also shorten the last days for the elect's sake. Hence, there will be a compression of events. Furthermore, all things will be in commotion. They certainly are right now. They really, really are. Only those in the process of becoming the men and women of Christ will be able to keep their spiritual balance. Brethren, may we walk by faith, and if necessary, even on our knees. Okay, well, that's going to be it for this one. So if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe. Like this video if you liked it. Leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also, make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.